Welcome to Module 4 of the QGIS video tutorial course brought to you by mangomap.com. In this module you'll learn how to use the QGIS map composer to produce quality maps with all the requisite map components. Using the map composer. Now that you've got a map, you need to be able to print it or export it to a document. The reason is a GIS map file is not an image. Rather it saves the state of the GIS program with references to all of the layers, their labels and colors, etc. So for someone who doesn't have the data or the same GIS program such as QGIS, the map file will be useless. Luckily, QGIS can export the map file to a format that anyone's computer can read, as well as printing out the map if you have a printer connected. Both exporting and printing is handled via the map composer. The goal of this lesson is to use the QGIS map composer to create a basic map with all of the required settings. The Composer Manager. QGIS allows you to create multiple maps using the same map file. For this reason, it has a tool called the Composer Manager. To open the Composer Manager, click on the Project menu and choose Composer Manager. Now from within this dialog, we press the Add button in order to make a new print composer, and we'll give it a name. I'll just call this one My Print. Press OK. And now to show the composer, press the Show key. Now from here, we can now close the Print Composer, and if we go back into the Project menu, you'll see if we go to Print Composers, I can now go directly to it from this menu. So we're back into the My Print Composer. Basic map composition. In this example, the composition was already the way we wanted it, so we need to ensure that yours is as well. So if we click on the Composition tab here on the left, on the right even, we can check the basic settings for the printed page. We can choose the paper size, we'll stick with A4. We can choose the orientation, so we'll stay with landscape, and here's the export resolution, 300 dpi, which is good for print. Now you'll notice that the page is currently blank. So the first thing we need to do is add our map to the page. We do this by pressing the Add Map button on the left, and then we drag the cursor to show where we would like the map to be displayed on the page. So I'm going to put the map here, and as you can see, our map's now been drawn on the page. We can just drag it and drop it to reposition it or center it, and we can also move these nodes in order to resize the map. So I think we'll put it in the center there. Okay, that looks good. Remember to leave enough margin around the sides of your map so it will fit on the printed page. Now we've got the map on page, you can also zoom in and zoom out of your print, and you also have a refresh button here to refresh the print view. Remember that the size and position you've given the map doesn't need to be final. You can always come back and change it later if you're not satisfied. For now, you need to ensure that you've saved your work on this map. Because a composer in QGIS is part of the main map file, you'll need to save your main project. So now, if we close the composer and we go back to the main project view in QGIS, we can save the project by pressing the Save key. Just like before, we can now go back to the Print Composer by going to My Print, and we're now back in at the Print Composer. Adding a title. Now the map's looking good on the page, but the reader isn't being told what's going on yet. They need some more context, which is what you'll provide for them by adding map elements. So first, let's begin by adding a title. We can click on the Add Text button on the left here, and then we can drag where we would like the text to go. Let's make this box a little bit bigger. And if we go into Item Properties, we can start by changing the name of the map. Let's change the name to Swellendam because that's the area we're looking at. And if we scroll down here, we can also change the font. So I'm going to make the font much bigger. Let's go for 36. And I'm going to increase the size of the box so it fits. And we can also change the positioning. So I would like to center it inside the box and also vertically align it. Now, to position it in a central position, we can either drag it and drop it like this, or another trick is we can click the main map, press Shift and click the title, and then from the menu at the top here, we can click and choose Align Center, and it will automatically center align the title. There are lots of other settings in here which you can also play around with, such as frames and rotations. I'll leave you to play with those settings in your own time. Adding a legend. The map reader also needs to be able to see what various things on the map actually mean. In some cases, like the place names, this is quite obvious. In other cases, it's more difficult to guess, like the colors of the farms, for example, in the map we made previously. So let's add a legend. To do that, we click on the Add Legend button here on the left-hand toolbar, and then we click on the map to say where we'd like to position the legend. So I think for this map, I'll position it here in the left corner. Now, on the right here, we also have some settings, so we can control what's within the legend. Now, for example, here, we have the item water listed twice. So let's remove one of them from the legend. And what we can also do, by pressing the Edit button, we can change what's displayed in the legend. So we might want to capitalize each of the items in the legend, like so. Exporting your map. Finally, the map's ready for export. You'll see the export buttons located in the top bar here. We have a choice for print and also export to PDF and export to image or SVG. The button on the left-hand side is the print button, which interfaces with a printer. Since the printer options will differ depending on the model of printer that you're working with, it's probably better to consult the printer manual or a general guide to printing for more information on this topic. The other three buttons allow you to export the map to a file. There are three export formats that you can choose from. You can choose from image, PDF, or SVG. Exporting as an image will give you a selection of various common image formats to choose from. This is probably the simplest option, but the image it creates is dead and difficult to edit. The other two options are more common. If you're sending the map to a cartographer who may want to edit the map for publication, it's best to export as SVG. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics and can be imported to programs like Inkscape or other vector imaging editing software. If you need to send the map to a client, it's most common to use PDF because it's easier to set up printing options for a PDF. Some cartographers may prefer PDF as well if they have a program that allows them to import and edit this format. For our purpose, we're going to use PDF. So in order to export, we click on the Export PDF button and we choose the location that we would like to save. So I'll just call this one My Print and hit the Save key. And our print map has now been exported as a PDF, which we can now open up using the PDF reader on our desktop computer. And here's the end result. In conclusion, the first 4 modules have taught you how to create and style vector maps. In the next 4 modules, you'll learn how to use QGIS for complete GIS analysis. This will include creating and editing vector data, analyzing vector data, using and analyzing raster data, and using GIS to solve problems from start to finish using both raster and vector data sources.